Hello, welcome to our Youth Success Conference. We have come together today with a panel and with a team of professionals, and we're going to talk today about something that we need to talk about. And we have a solution for what so many are looking for, and it is, how do we help our children succeed? In spite of all of the problems and all of the challenges, how do we help them succeed? We are a team of dedicated licensed professionals with advanced expertise in counseling, education, social services, medicine, law, and all of our experts are board certified and have many years of experience. We're so glad that they're here today, and some are still on their way, and they will come to the panel when they get here. But we want to thank them, and as you come in, you can come on to the panel. What we're going to talk about today is our goals, which consist of primary 3 goals, and then we're going to look at some proven success goals. And with those proven success goals, we're going to provide free of charge for every family, every child, a set of proven success goals as we help you partner together for your child's success. Our first goal is, how do we develop an environment at home, at school, at church, and in the community context that our children are in to help them succeed? The second goal is, how do we develop a family mentality to help your child succeed? The third goal is how working together with a team of experienced professionals can help your child succeed. And then we're going to look at our set of proven success goals and talk about those for a moment. Our success workshop with follow-up discussion, support teams, designed to increase success and reduce failure. There's a struggle today for our children for succeeding and being able to succeed, especially when it comes to our African American males. So many of our African American males struggle to find success. And what we find is that our African American males particularly succeed when they are provided opportunities and pathways to success. So many of our African American males are involved in athletics. You'll notice that they're involved in entertainment, whether it's acting or rapping. Those are the things that they're attracted to. And what we find is that the reason why they're attracted to those, because number one, they have access to success in those areas. Usually athletics is easily gained for them. And number two, they see other African American males who are succeeding or who have succeeded in those areas. And so we find that when children are provided success opportunities and we help them succeed in their gifts and their talents, then that environment becomes an environment that nurtures that giftedness. And so we want to talk today about that. When children have a pathway to succeed and an environment to succeed, to achieve success, what happens is they internalize success, that success can be achieved. They focus on improvement instead of worrying about how many obstacles are in their way. They work hard, they learn, and they grow, and they relate and get better. Success pathway children and youth have relationships that supports their learning and growth. They are responsive to honest feedback rather than becoming defensive. They seek to build their skills, and they are willing to learn from the experiences of others. The success pathway that we're focusing on and talking about today is based on research, extensive years of research. and proven. We know that children who have a pathway to success, they show greater motivation in their relationships, in academics, in extracurricular activities, in athletics, and in their goals. One of the reasons that we are doing this is because, number one, we know that the time has come for us to form a coalition and to join together to take advantage of the opportunities to help our youth succeed. Success environments are important as well. All environments must do a success assessment, whether it's the family or in the family, in the church, in the community, their community context, so that they will learn that success becomes a part of natural living and day-to-day activities. I believe that success is not fixed by how much opportunities is given outside, but how much we create the opportunities that's within the heart of our children. And we know that success can be improved through experience and hard work and learning how to succeed. I thrive on challenge. I throw myself into difficult tasks, and I am self-confident. They're able to say that. They're able to ignore the low aspirations of their peers. They're able to react to failure by trying harder, to engage in self-monitoring. They're able to have learning goals and to accept feedback about their performance so they can improve. Another thing that I want to note today is that we have looked at the effect of racism on our children and how racism affects their learning and their success. The American Academy of Pediatrics calls racism a socially transmitted disease passed down through generations, leading to the inequities in America today. Their research draws on 180 studies. It also notes that America's current political and social and cultural atmosphere is dangerous and even deadly for many of our children. African American children, it has a devastating effect on their health. So it's important that we note that African American culture and heritage is important. So many of our schools and the context in which our children are trying to learn in and grow in and succeed in are really ignorant of African American culture and or even off-putting and degrading of African American culture. So we have a definition. The working definition we use for African American culture is that African American cultural heritage has features that are unique and different from any other group in American society. There are in America distinct similarities and differences between African Americans and other cultural groups. There are some striking differences arising from the effects of forced immigration, enslavement, peonage, lynching, segregation, the drug war, the education public school system, and the legal criminal justice system and prison industrial complex. The African American experience in America has been rife with violence, systemic racism, and government and state-sponsored terrorism against African Americans. African American culture, although it is diverse, represents a distinct ethnic and racial experience in America because of slavery, because of Jim Crow, because all of those aforementioned areas, the drug war, the war on drugs, the prison industrial complex. Dr. Nancy Boyd Franklin a psychologist suggests that 5 main areas that make up the African American cultural experience in America are, number 1, the African legacy; number 2, the history of slavery; number 3, racism and discrimination; 4, the victim system; and 5, the attempts at a positive African American identity. So we're going to talk about today, what does the success pathway look like? And through the eyes and experience and expertise of our panel, we're going to ask them questions about how we can help our African American children succeed. So the first question I want to ask the panel, and you have a mic in front of you. It's yours, and you can handle it, because we are taking care of our social distancing. And thank you for being here. We give you a hand, and those few in the audience, go ahead and give our panel a hand. We're glad you're here, and we thank you for your work that you've done for so many years for our children. And so the first question I want to ask is, what do we need to do to transform our education system?
I would like to speak on that one.
Yes.
I think the first thing that needs to be done to transform our educational system is to start at the top. And people need to be hired in those positions that have taught in the schools, that have worked with young people, because we find that many of the administrators have not worked with our kids.
Yes.
And they have been hired in from other states, and it's because of their credentials, but they don't have the right credentials. So we need to start at the top, weed out all of those that do not have compassion for kids, and really work with our kids. And I think that would help in the beginning.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself and give us, no, you're fine. I didn't ask, and just give us your credentials, okay? Thank you so much. That's Doris Chandler, and she's a school social worker and has been in the school for over 20 years, school system, working with our children. Thank you so much. Anyone else?
My name is, not sure is this working?
You can probably hold that so that we can hear you better.
My name is Leisha Graham, and I have a master's degree in social work and a CAC3. I've spent 20 years at Denver Human Services as a social worker, an intake worker. I've worked in the juvenile justice system at Lookout Mountain and Montview as a substance abuse counselor. And I've also worked in the adult prison system, Denver Women's Correctional Facility, and some other places. And I would like to agree with Sister Chandler about the school system. I believe that they need to hire teachers that are familiar with working with black children, you know, not just good with children, because our children are different, and they have different needs. They require different things. And our children are being pushed through the system. They're being labeled with titles that they haven't earned and they don't deserve. So first of all, I think we do need to have people who are skilled with our culture and our environment, because our children they're not all ADD and all these other labels that they're giving them.
Yes.
They just have different needs, and they need to be addressed differently. We learn differently. And I don't think those needs are specifically being met in the school system. Mm-hmm. Being in the social services system, they kind of intertwine. And our children are being removed from our homes at a very high rate, because we're also hiring social workers.
Would you say that again, please?
Our black children of color, are being removed from their homes at a higher rate than any other class of children in this country. And it's because we're hiring social workers that are not familiar with our culture.
Yes.
They're going into our homes saying that our single mothers are hostile and they're angry, when of course they're angry. We're talking about their children.
Yeah, we're more passionate, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And anyone would be upset when we're looking at, social services has a bad reputation for taking people's kids.
Yes.
And so when you knock on someone's door and say, I'm here from social services, they panic. And as a good parent, you would panic, and you
Yes.
should panic.
Yes.
But that doesn't make you hostile, and that does not make you unable to parent your children. And these social workers are coming in with no life experience. They're coming in right out of college, and they haven't lived long enough, first off.
Yes,
And then
yes.
you've never walked in my black shoes
Yes.
to understand how I need to raise my children to keep my children safe on the streets. As it's a passion, but it's something that has never been addressed.
Yes.
And it's still not being addressed. And our children are still suffering. We're doing more harm than we are good. Because I believe that children belong at home with their parents.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
there comes a time where you may have to remove them, but that should be the very last thing that you do. You need to have tried everything you can to give this parent support and these children support before you take them from their parent.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
there are also bad foster homes. So putting kids in a foster home does not solve that situation. You need to teach these parents, help these parents, support these parents, parent their children, because they're their children and they deserve to raise their own kids.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes.
Hi, my name is Dr. Artisha Porter. I am a dentist, and I have been working for 4 years in Aurora, Colorado. And I work at an office that primarily treats children, youth, and young adults. I would say to that question, I think what needs to happen is when these educators are being trained in school, I think they need to have some type of training on biases, because I think, you know,
Yes.
they already come in and they have these biases, you know, these prejudice, racism, whatever you want to call it. And so I think it needs to start in their training so
Yes.
that they can be made aware of that. And then when they go onto the job, there needs to be some type of onboarding training that they get, so that they know how to, you know, interact with these kids, how to respond to them, you know, because they may label, you know, a black kid as a troubled kid, you know, all these negative labels. And it will come from, you know, their own inherited biases that they have. And so I just think that it starts with training those people who are in the education system, the teachers, the administrators, all of those individuals.
Thank you, Dr. Porter. I'm glad you raised that. I also want to ask you something else, a bit about that training in school, because I think that's very, very important. In your school experience at dental school, what was that like for you, being an African American? Were you the only one?
It was very difficult. You know, number one, you know, not only with the teachers, but also with my classmates, because a lot of them came from communities where they didn't see many black people.
Yes.
And so I was probably, you know, the first one that they had close contact with, I guess. And they already had, you know, their prejudgments in their mind of who they thought I was. Number one, knowing that I was from Aurora, Colorado, which to them was the ghetto.
The ghetto in Colorado,
And
right?
that still blows my mind.
Yeah.
And then also knowing, you know, that I was a single mom, and so they already had these prejudgments.
Yes.
And so, you know, it was difficult because I think they didn't know quite how to approach me, you know. And maybe, too, because I didn't fit in some package, you know, what they see and what they think.
Stereotypes.
A stereotype, yeah. And so they didn't quite know what to do with me, you know, and the same with, you know, the instructors, the way that they approached me. You know, some of them, they may show a little bit more sympathy towards, you know, a white student. And then they would try to come at me a little bit harder,
Yeah.
you know, so.
It's very
Yeah.
good. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yes, we're thank God for this panel. These are people that have worked many years with our children and with children. We're glad they're here. Yes. Anyone else? Did you want to speak to that, attorney? That's up.
Yes. And I think that there should be more community involvement in the school systems to hold the officials accountable. And one need not be a professional or an expert, but we in the community, we know our children, we know
Yes.
our culture,
Yes.
we know what they need, and we can speak to those needs. And also there are resources that are available, and we need to encourage those of us who are professionals, encourage our colleagues to volunteer their time. That's one thing that I strongly encourage. Each attorney, and by the way, my name is Beryl Williams. I'm an attorney here in Denver, Colorado, licensed in the state of Colorado in federal court. We are all charged with doing a number of pro bono cases, so many hours of pro bono cases, and not all of our colleagues are doing that. So I am charged with making my colleagues accountable to provide legal resources, especially to parents who have difficulties with their children, difficulties that are placed upon their children in the school system.
Wonderful. Say that one more time. I'm sorry. I just want, because we know the school to prison pipeline is real, and a lot of our kids, the first experience they have with the law is in school. And so I'm glad. Could you say that again? Yes.
I think that there are resources available, and those resources need to be made available to parents in the community, especially parents who find that their kids are encountering difficulties in the school system that are unjust and undeserved and being treated disparately. Sometimes we in the legal community tend to look at the remuneration, dollar signs. We're looking at money to buy a fancy house or a fancy car, but that's not what the profession was designed to do. We all have a responsibility, and we have a responsibility to our children because they are our future. And sometimes the parents don't know precisely how to navigate the legal challenges that are proposed to them. So the resources in the community of attorneys could help them get through. And I suggest it to parents, any parent who encounters a difficulty, ask if there's an attorney that someone knows, they, family member, friend, and call that attorney and ask them if they're willing to help, and indicate that, you know, there are limited or no resources financially to put toward this effort, but call upon their challenge to serve their community and to honor the code of ethics and the canons that they as attorneys have been challenged with and should abide by.
Thank you so much. I also want to ask you about how much information should they even talk to when a child is being accused of doing something in school? Shouldn't they just be quiet and get an attorney instead of divulging information that can be used against them?
I suggest calling upon the resources of an attorney, yes, especially depending upon the nature and the complexity of the charges, because I've been called about some very heinous charges against a middle school child, and the parent didn't really know what to do, but with the efforts of me and a team of my colleagues, we were able to make this challenge and charge go away because it was unfounded, it was unjust. But sometimes when you don't know what your legal rights are, you tend to, maybe I say, shoot yourself in the foot by saying things that you shouldn't have said, or making people have you commit to something that you didn't do just to make it go away. And I suggest that, yes, legal resources are needed. And I'm not encouraging the services of an attorney for money, but there are many of us out there who are willing to help at no cost.
Thank you so much. And this is wonderful because what we found is we need a team for our children. We need to let parents know and let our children know and the schools know that our children are not alone. And so these are resources that we call upon. And we have, I want you all to speak to the school to prison pipeline as well.
I wanted to say, as she was speaking, it is so true. Our parents are not knowledgeable. They're not knowledgeable.
Yes.
They're not knowledgeable. And it should start with educating our parents.
Okay,
Because
yes.
they do not know. Now, many times when they come to schools and talk with us, because they always send them to the social worker. There are things that we need to tell them how to go and work it out. Like, we have so many instances, and Lisa know, that the dad will come in. I've had this experience, and there's a fight between the dad and the mother. So they're coming to me for advice. I'm not a lawyer, I'm a social worker. But we as social workers are educated in so many things concerning the law because of this. So we have to give them advice as, this is a step you need to take. This is what you need to do. It is so often happening in the schools. I have worked with so many parents, husband and wives, that are getting divorced, and the kids, they don't know what they're going to do. They're fighting amongst themselves. The kids come, they are distraught. We see all of this in the school, and it's really sad because they don't know what to do. And many times, that's my big goal in working with the schools, was to work with the parents. Because the parents needed parenting. They don't know how. They would come and ask, what do I do? This is my child. That's your child, and you're asking me. What should I do? I've done all I can do. I hear this, and I hear it down to the kindergarten level, where a parent will come in and say, I've done all I can do. And you're thinking, with a kindergartner, they don't know. They don't know what else to do, because the way they have been trained and raised, it's not working for this child. So we have to figure out ways to help them, and many times it's really tough because their language is not the same as ours, you know, and they don't really understand. And my heart goes out to parents that's young. They don't know how to raise their kids. So we said, where do we start? It starts with the parent. And what needs to happen is parenting classes. I've seen down through, 20-some years, parents need parenting. And many times we have set up in the school for them to come and get parenting, and a lot of them are rebellious. They rebel against that because, like Lisa said, they're angry. We have a lot of angry parents. Why? Because of the way they were raised and what they're going through. They have jobs, no jobs. They're one single parent. I've seen more than, in recent years, I've seen more single dads than I have ever seen. But I'm glad for that, you know, because the father is involved. But this, you either see the single dad and the single mom. You hardly ever see the couples coming in because they're not. They're not couples. So I just wanted to say that as she was speaking, a lot of it is ignorance on the part that they just don't know.
Thank you so much, because I want to go ahead and jump into that, the parents and the importance of parents in their children's success and education, and also that how do we help parents to understand that they're not alone, that there's resources like ours.
And I would like to agree with everything that I've heard with the legal piece, because that's really important. Our families and our parents do not understand what they do and do not have to disclose. And disclosing too much information, believe me, is always held against you when you say something that you should not say.
Absolutely.
And
we need to stress that.
Yes.
That's another repeat one.
You don't have to tell everybody all of your business, and because it will come back to haunt you. And then speaking on what Sister Chandler said is that, you know, the pipeline from the school system to the social services system is a direct line. Because the school social workers, if they don't know how to handle something, they call the county, and
which is often, isn't it?
All the time. And these are matters that should have just been handled at the school level. Talk to these parents at the school. Everything's not a child abuse, you know, emergency. And once you get social services involved in it, there's really no backing out. So now these parents are trapped in the system, and it keeps building, you know. If the child is not going to school, so we have truancy court, so now this child is caught in the court system and the social services system. And it follows them, you know, and they get frustrated. If they continue to act out, you know, then the courts are saying, we're looking at removal, we want this child removed because he won't go to school. That to me is not a good reason to do that, because if you move them, that doesn't mean they're going to go to school either. There's a reason why this child is not going to school. Evangelist Chandler said that Parents are frustrated. I've watched parents, they have dropped this child off at the front of the school, and that kid goes out the back door. That's not neglect on this parent's fault, part. This parent is dropping this child off at school. This child is not going to school. But now you're going to punish the parent and take the parent to court because this child is truant. And there's got to be a better way to deal with that kind of stuff. Everything should not get these parents involved in the system, because once you get in there, you don't get out. It's just almost impossible to back yourself up out of the system. So I agree that we need to teach our parents what they do and do not need to disclose, and how to manage these systems, because it's not just one system.
Yeah.
It's the school system, the
Yes.
social services system, the legal system. They need to understand, do not disclose all your information, and where to go to get some help.
How do we insert ourselves into these systems, these schools?
I do believe parents need to be more active, proactive. You need to be at these schools. These parents need to be at these schools. And I understand that they work, they may work, but you need to be there to know what's going on with your child. Because these teachers, some of them are labeling these children
That's
because
right.
behaviors. Bad behavior does not make you schizophrenic or
Right,
all
right.
this other stuff.
Absolutely.
And those labels will follow that child the rest of their life. So I would say proactive parents. They need to go to the parent conferences. You need to know what your child is doing, and you need to be willing to listen when somebody says, this is the behavior that I'm seeing from your child, and it's an honest assessment. And I do know that there are teachers that are targeting negative stuff, but there are other ones there that are saying, okay, this is what I'm saying. I want to help you with this, and you need to be open to hear that.
Okay.
You know, and when you're fortunate enough to find a school social worker like this one, use her.
User, yes.
She's an asset.
Yes. Yes. Wonderful. Wonderful. Anything else from our panel on this one? Yes. Tamara.
My name is Tamara Porter Joyner, and I'm a licensed professional counselor. I have a Master of Arts degree in clinical mental health counseling. And from a mental health standpoint, I just wanted to say that having a cultural competence is very important.
Yes. Yes.
What I have found out, which is everything that's going on in just in the world,
Yes.
with like the protesting and just all of that, that a lot of therapists do not know how to deal with the trauma as it pertains to African, just African Americans, and
Yes.
just the things that we encounter
Yes.
in society as it pertains to things like police brutality. And so, again, it really goes back to getting some training
Yes,
and
yes.
making sure that as a counselor, you also are able to just understand and be able to empathize with the experience of just, whatever African American client that you are trying to help.
Yes.
That that you have to be aware that racism and the things that we encounter in society is a very traumatizing thing, and so being able to speak to that and just being able to be just more knowledgeable about that. So again, that just goes back to just how important training is, so people are able to be more cultural competent.
That's good. I thank you so much for that, because we found out in our research and our work with youth that what was in the way of their success is the cultural piece. There's a lot of schools that have tried to do different things with our children, and they just can't do it. And the problem in the missing element is that cultural piece. They can't deal with the African American culture. They don't empathize with or sympathize with the culture, and that's a real need. Thank you so much for that. I want to, because time is moving real quick, and I want to see if there's any questions from anyone in the audience. If you raise your hand and just put a question out, I can repeat it for you. I cannot give you a mic, but if you have a question, you can do that for our panel. And so just feel free to raise your hand if you have that. So I have another question for our panel, and it is, in a lot of our school contexts, what is the difference that you have recognized between our male students and our female students? And is the context more conducive to females sometimes than others? And the reason I ask that is because there's a real need to make sure that our child, both male and females, our children are not, that they're not just receiving disciplinary leadership, but also they're having instructionary leadership. What we found is that a lot of our neighborhoods and schools have more disciplinary leadership. What I mean is administration, the whole structure of leadership are more about disciplinary. And this is one of the things we say to parents. In our research, we have found specific things that really create a culture of failure rather than a culture of success. We're about creating a culture of success and a success pathway. And so speak to that if you can. You know, what we have found too is, and let me just give you these four before I put this question out. What we also found out is that for males, many times our African-American males, the classroom is designed for female students versus designed for male students. What's meant by that is males have a higher energy levels and they're higher energy in classrooms. Males also have more advanced movement and gross motor activity in the classroom, especially for African American males. That's looked as a heightened sense of hyperactivity, and they want to label them right away ADD. And please, parents, don't volunteer any information to teachers and administrators about what the doctors and stuff said to about your kids. Keep that to yourself, okay? And then thirdly is males have a higher ego gratification need. And so can you all speak to that a little bit for me?
And that's not understood in the schools, the difference. And I can tell you that more males are put on IEPs than girls.
Okay.
And it's because it's not understood their hyperactivity, it's a difference in a male and a female. So that is really not understood. And they try to put everybody on the same
scope. They just acting like boys, right?
Yeah.
That's how boys supposed to act, right? Yes.
Yeah, and I really have noticed that.
Yeah.
So the thing is, our young men are the ones black boys are the ones that's being counted out and pulled out as ADHD. I mean, this kid does not have ADHD. This kid is just hyperactive, and all you have to do is find things and ways. The thing about it is the school system is too lazy to really find ways and means to help these kids that's active, these young men that need. And the other thing is we need more black male teachers. Yes. And we don't have a lot of black male teachers, and this is the default for our black boys because there is no example. A lot of examples for them because a black male will understand a black child, male child. Yes. We don't have that. These are things that need to be corrected, and I've often asked the question that I don't know how that we could get more black male teachers. Many of them have retired, and not many have come into that field that was. But on the other hand, we do have black women teachers that do understand, and they work hard. I have worked with some that put everything out there for that black man, that black male boy, because that's where the thing is. So you're right.
Thank you so
much. A lot
much.
of it's the problem. That's a problem.
Thank you. That's just tremendous insight for us. You know, because when we talk about George Floyd, when we talk about Aubrey, when we talk about our young men, a lot of them, they have went after alternative ways of making income. But that started in school.
Well, I think a lot of it is they're seen as being aggressive. You know, the behavior now, we have this child that they're labeling as being aggressive, and he, you know, all these other DSM-5 labels that you can find.
Yeah.
And it's not that he's aggressive. He's just a black child. He came from this type of environment. You know, he may have seen things in his home that this person that's working with this child does not
Yes.
understand.
Yeah.
And it's not that we have a bad child and you have a child that's a danger to others. This is just a behavior that he may have seen. And, you know, I think as African American people, we've all been told at one point or another that we're aggressive. I mean,
That's
I know
right.
that I
That's
have.
right.
I've been told that I was aggressive and I was threatening and intimidating, and some of it's just merely because of my height or my voice or just my color.
Yeah. Yes.
So our children in the school systems at a young age are being already told that they're aggressive and there's something wrong with them.
Yes.
And it's
Yeah.
not true. You're just a black child and you have behaviors that come from your community, and the people in the school systems are not trained, like Tamara said, they're not trained to understand that,
Yes.
you know. And I mean, taking, you know, courses over the years with looking at our own trauma, we're adults.
Yes.
So we
Come
know
on.
how to express and say how we feel about what's going on. These are children.
Yes.
They don't really understand it.
Yeah.
They
And,
know
and
they're
we're
going
still
through it.
working on expressing
Yeah.
our trauma, right?
Yeah.
And dealing with
I
ours.
mean, they're
yeah.
feeling all this stuff
That's
because
right.
they're being told it, and they're
Yeah.
being, you know, these young men, even, you know, in elementary school are being targeted in the stores and stuff. So they're not even understanding how to express these feelings, but they're feeling it. And if you don't have culturally competent people in these school systems to work and address this behavior, they're going to be told that they're violent. And they're going to act on that. And that's what they're going to know and they're going to understand because that's what you told them. You know, you didn't
Yes.
tell them that this is okay behavior. Let's find a better way to express it. Let's do something with this. Because all aggression's not bad.
Right. Right.
You know, you need to channel
Right.
it. But,
Well, it's natural for
Yes.
for males,
It's
especially, and
natural for
even some of our
females.
females.
you know, success, you need to be aggressive in
Come
some
on,
ways.
come on.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yes.
It just needs to be channeled, and they need some help with that. But don't label them as being thugs and all this other stuff
Right,
because they
right.
have this behavior
Right.
and because it's normal.
Stereotype threat is a huge issue for our children in schools. And, you know, I noticed the different communication styles sometimes that white teachers use, white administrators use when it comes to our children. It's more, they talk harsher, they raise their voice because they've been led to believe stereotypically that you got to be this kind of way with them. And if you don't handle them that way, even in educational systems, they do that. We see that happening. Yes. Talk a bit about health, importance of health.
Yeah, you know what you're saying that I have even seen that in in the healthcare field, and
Yes.
of course particularly dentistry, with dealing with black kids that come in versus white kids or any other kids who are non-black. It seems like even the providers seem to be more sympathetic
Yes.
when dealing with the non-black kid. They're more sensitive to pain, if they're saying they're
Yes,
feeling pain
yes.
or whatever.
There's a lot of research about that pain
Uh-huh,
in African Americans.
Yeah, because they have done studies with medical students, and they have completed surveys that show that a lot of them truly believe that black people have a higher pain tolerance, and that we should be able to bear things, that, others cannot,
Yes,
they're
yes.
more sensitive.
Right.
And so I do notice when it comes to, black boys particularly, and black girls too, they tend to be a lot more harsh.
Yes.
I remember I was sitting in a CE course, and it was actually a Asian doctor who stood up and said that she was told that you had to be more harsh when dealing with the black patients because that's how they'll
Yes, that's
respond.
right.
You know, that's how you can get them under control. And I was
Talk
was
about
in
bias.
shock that, right, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly,
serious, yeah.
which is why I feel like that needs to be checked at the
Yes.
door, and people need to be made aware of these biases that they're having, because then they take it into, you know, into their workplace.
Yes.
And then that's how they relate to, you know, those
That's right.
individuals.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Yes.
And that's why I think that as African Americans, it's important for us to provide our own trainings, because a lot of the trainings that we are getting and things that are done in the workplace are not really from our perspective, not
Yes,
really
yes.
from our experiences. And so just being able to get just how we're having this discussion,
Yes.
and we're able to provide our experience. And I think that being able to have that more in school and in the workplace, to where we are able to provide training and information from our perspective, from our experiences, instead of not from someone else and maybe what
Absolutely.
they think,
Yes.
you know.
Yes.
So I think that's
Yes,
important.
absolutely, because it's always going to be filled with biases. Any questions from our audience? Yes, please.
How would you suggest that the panel work with the parents in managing their emotions? Because managing emotions, I believe, where it starts.
Very good.
Things don't always go wrong, and that's okay, because we learn from your mistakes.
Yes.
But it's when you overreact or underreact. How do you consider getting parents together as a group to teach them without degrading them? Because some people don't know how to listen.
Yes. Wonderful. They don't know how to listen. Come on. Very good. Thank you so much. And that question is, how do we work with parents in managing their emotions and helping them to where they can listen and be effective listeners when it comes to their children?
Well, I think we need to, I think Tamara was bringing it out real well. We need to start as a church.
Yes.
It starts in the
Yes.
church.
I'm glad you brought the church up, because that's my last question. How does the church help?
The church.
Yeah, the spiritual
need to-
aspect.
Exactly. The church needs to start parenting groups.
Yes. Okay.
And we need to
Wonderful.
reach out to our community.
Wonderful.
Teaching our parents, because that is a key thing, and that's something that I'm very interested in, training parents.
Wonderful.
How to work with their children.
Wonderful.
How to make their children feel positive, feel good about themselves. Because the parent has to learn to feel good about themselves first. And because they don't, they add that it's, you know, down to their children, and it just keep going. And I think we need to work with our children in the church, and we can even start groups in our community training parents how to focus on helping your child bring in or control your emotions, because we all have emotions.
Yes,
And
yes,
the way you were trained to express your emotions many times wasn't healthy.
Right,
So
right.
it just wasn't healthy.
Yes.
So we need to learn how to teach them to have your emotions. You're gonna be angry.
Yeah,
It's all
yeah.
right to be angry.
Yes.
And that's what need to be taught too. It's all right to be angry. But
That's
how
right.
do you channel that
That's
anger?
right.
What do
That's
you
right.
do with that anger? How are you gonna react to a response? You know, so those things need to
Absolutely.
be taught, and I think we have to start in the church, and we start with our members, and we reach out in the community.
Good. Thank you. Yes.
And I agree. I mean, Pastor, I've often told you that you can't teach what you don't know. And we've got a lot of parents that they're young, they're inexperienced, they don't have a lot of life experience.
Yes. Yes.
So and they don't know enough to parent, you know. So you can't teach your child how to control your temper if you can't control your own temper.
Right. Right.
So
right.
I agree with Evangelist Chandler that parenting groups are important, but not just any parenting group. Because I've had to send parents to parenting groups, and they weren't going to learn anything because the people teaching them didn't know enough
Yeah. Yeah.
about how to parent black children.
Yes.
And and I also agree that we have to parent these parents.
Yes.
We
yes.
have to teach. We have to parent them.
Yes.
They don't know. You know, so they can't teach their children. And we have to come at them with respect so that they want to learn and
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
Because they've already been in the system and degraded already. That's why some of them are so against getting some help, and they're already negative, and they're already don't want to get involved because they've been talked down to,
Yes. Yes.
and treated so inappropriately, because I've seen it, and no wonder they don't want to engage.
Yes.
You know, so
Yes.
we have to get them in a place where they're excited and they want to engage and they want this information, because once they start seeing the changes in their children, they're going to keep engaging. You know, but they haven't seen that, because all
Yeah.
they've been told is the bad things
Yes.
that people have seen about them, and the bad things that their child is doing. They haven't gotten any positive reinforcement, and we all need that.
That's right.
You know,
That's
so
right.
if you're working hard, things are still going to happen. Like the gentleman said, things are still going to happen. You know, this child may do really, really well for a whole week, and then the next week, who knows? He's
Yeah.
had a bad day today.
Right,
You
right,
know,
right.
but you still got to pick them back up and keep going, and they need that positive reinforcement. And that's something that they're not getting.
Yes.
You know, they're getting the negative piece, not the positive.
And I wanted to say one more thing. And she mentioned that you need to know who you're getting to do this training. Because, like she said, if they haven't been trained, if they don't know, then what they're going to train your child is what they know.
Right.
And I just want to give you an example. At my schools, and my principal emailed me a couple of weeks ago, and I had never thought about that because I was telling her bye and everything. And the principal emailed me, and she said, "I'm going to miss you so much because you are the parent whisperer."
Wow.
And I'm
Wow.
like, wow.
Say that again.
Said, "You are the parent whisperer."
Wow.
You know
That's
what they
great.
mean. And I look back, and many times when parents would come into the schools outraged, so outraged, and they would call me to talk to the parent. And why was that? Because God in my life.
Yes.
It was
Yes.
God in my life that led me how to
Come
deal
on.
with these parents.
Come on.
Down through the years, and every
Yes.
school I've been in, they always call me to deal with the difficult parent. And they said, "This parent is coming. Ask Miss Chandler if she'll come." And I had to think about that. I said the reason was my prayer
Yes.
was always to connect with the parent, because that's the source.
Yes.
That's the source.
Yes.
And how are you going to connect, Chandler? I'm not going to connect with an attitude, a Snoopy attitude, or I'm better than you. I come down to their level to work with them. We need to know how to handle outraged parents that come into school.
Yes.
Because some of them are so hurt, they're ready to tear up stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this was with men and women I had to deal with.
Yeah.
They put that on me. Then I said, "Lord, this is my place. This is why I'm here."
Yes.
And so you have to know where God has called you to be.
Yes,
This
yes.
is my place to deal with these difficult parents, because they need somebody. And you have to feel them.
That's
You
good.
got to feel people. You just can't deal with people without feeling them.
That's right.
And you don't just jump on people. My first thing when I see an irate person is, what's the root? What caused this? Tam know where, all of you know, you're
Yeah.
counselors, you
Yeah.
know. That's where you go
Yeah.
first. Not jump on them, fuss at them.
Right.
Where is this coming from? There's something bigger than this is happening now.
Yeah.
So what is the root of this? Why are you so angry? What's going on? So you dig to see what's going on, and you will find out every
Yeah.
time. You're going to find out.
Yeah.
It's deeper than what you see.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. That's good. Someone said that I asked the child, I said, "I need to talk to your parents." And he said, the parent came, and they said they told the parent, "I need to talk to your parent." They said it goes generations deep. Yes. Any more questions from the audience? Yes, please. Yes.
I've worked with schools forever.
Yes.
Kids went to private school, public school,
Uh-huh.
and I just hate the fact that we have to like muster up resources to
Yeah.
send them to private school.
Mhm.
There are very few kids that look like them.
Yes.
Most kids of color, but I know at least they're gonna get, you know, they'll at least get the education that they need.
Yes, yes.
But I'm at a point where, like, there's report after report, UPS acknowledges that there's this prison in the pipeline. They
Yeah.
acknowledge that there's inequity. They acknowledge that the black boys are, you know, I mean, it's not a secret. It's like, you know, it's published everywhere. So I'm kind of like, so they know, they admit it, they know. But nothing's being done to really change it.
Yes.
So I'm kind of at a point where it's like, so what can we do to move forward to hold them accountable? I don't know if it's like a class action, because, I mean, they know, and it's like,
Yeah.
and I kind of feel foolish because my kids every day knowing that, you know, here I go sending you to, you know, our
Yeah.
kids
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I've seen a learning spirit for my kids just die down in matter
That's right.
transition to school.
That's right.
You know, we do all we can at home, but, you know, once it's to a certain level, you're at home, they're like, oh, it's different. Just that it's okay. It doesn't
Right.
matter. And so you're trying to keep that. So I feel like, you know, how do we hold the schools accountable from a legal standpoint?
That's a great question for the attorney. Can we do a class action suit? And I thank you so much. I want to repeat, and I want to capture it if I didn't capture it. What was said, the question was, what do we do with our kids when we take them to private school and we pay for a lot of money and we're paying for that education, but they're still not getting what they're needed. It's still not about our culture, and you see their learning die down. And the public schools, where there's this school-to-prison pipeline. The first question was, in keeping with that, was, should we do a class action lawsuit?
Sometimes that's the way to get the attention of an entity, of the school administrators. And I don't know how many of you remember Keys v. School Board here in Denver?
No. Say that
was-
again.
Keys v. School Board, Keys v. Denver School Board. The busing, where kids were allowed to go to schools outside of their neighborhoods if
Yes.
it was a better quality school. It's probably from the late 70s, and I can
Okay.
provide you with more information in detail. However, sometimes you don't even get to the lawsuit, just the threat of a lawsuit, filing it, and then you get parties to the table. And no one wants to be stuck being labeled with a label that's unflattering in terms of their profession and in terms of their responsibilities in their positions. So sometimes, yes, a lawsuit, and I'm not, just because I'm an attorney, I'm not going around saying, oh, let's file a lawsuit. No court will entertain a frivolous lawsuit. At some point, it gets shut down. But if you've got a valid reason, a valid ground to stand on, that lawsuit will get the attention of those at the top because they're going to be the named individuals. So
That's wonderful. I think it's both and. I think we do a civil lawsuit. I think it's time to take forceful and decisive action. I also think that we must act in and of ourselves. What we're doing here is we have and I want to thank the Denver Foundation who's given us funding. And let me tell you one of the things that's going on. It's time for us to come together and revisit our own schools. No one can do, and I heard it from every expert up here, no one can train and teach us like we can. So we need our own school. We need to put the power back where it belongs. We're the only people that take our children every single day
Right.
to the enemy, leave them there all day, and sometime all week and month and year, and then we see them when they're teenagers or adults, and we wonder what happened to them. They've been with the enemy for so long. We just turned them over, and they have no knowledge or no care for us. I thank you so much for your question. Yeah, I'm going to let you all speak to that if you want to. Let me, I know we're really over time, but I want to, Burl, can you kind of tell us, you had an experience with the church in Alabama?
yes, I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama, and it was a time and a place where the church was the core of the community. I attended what 16th Street Baptist Church. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the church, but it was the church that was bombed, and 4 little girls were killed. But the church was the core of the community, and it provided so many resources to the community. For me, I became interested in music through the church, educational opportunities, and I think that we've gotten away from our churches as the core of our community. And some
Yes.
people view church, you know, I'm here on Sunday and that's it. But there are so many resources that can be made available through the church Monday through Friday. And that's what I saw growing up, not only in my church, but in many churches there in the community. And they were the epicenters for organizing and combating a lot of the issues that we were faced with, and primarily the racial issues that existed and that still exist. But that was the epicenter for challenging many things that were wrong in our society at that time. And a lot of those things are still wrong, unfortunately.
Wonderful. Thank you. And you, on that Sunday when that church was bombed, those little girls.
Yes, we were supposed to go to Sunday school that morning, but as many of you know, the Sunday newspaper comes and it had the comics in the paper, at least in my town, in Alabama. And we like to look at the comics. So we were dawdling around, and we'd, you know, make 2 steps forward, and then we'd go and look at the comics, and we just weren't timely. We didn't get ready on time. So we were late for Sunday school. And as we were going, we got closer and closer to the church, and we could hear the sirens. And we had no idea what happened. And when we got within blocks of the church, we just saw our church in shambles. There were people crying. I remember one gentleman saying, "They got my niece." His niece was one of the 4 little girls who was killed. And I don't know what God had in store for us, but we weren't supposed to be there that morning because those who were killed were children. And Sunday school, the children's classes were held in the basement, and that's where the bomb was planted, right by the basement entry. And the 4 girls didn't survive. A lot of children were injured. The sister of one of the girls who was killed was blinded. And I remember it so distinctly. I remember the day. It was overcast. It wasn't rainy, but it was just this cold, austere day. And it's something that's etched into my memory, and I will never forget it.
That is quite a story. So you missed it just by moments. And
Yes.
we're glad that you did. We're glad that you're here to help us. On that note, we're gonna end. I want to say to you that you can reach out to us. We do have a free gift for every parent, every family, every child. It is a set of proven success goals, and we're here to help. If you go to 10,000families.com, scroll down all the way down and press the button and just fill that out, and we'll get that back to you. Thank you again. Give our panelists a hand again for helping and for being here today and for your wisdom and your hard work. And thank you for coming. God bless you.